Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the first Under the Rim podcast. I'm here with a great friend of mine, Chandler. Happy to be here, man. Excited?
Yeah.
I'm excited too. We got a lot to talk about. Let's talk LA. We're going to talk LeBron. What do you think as far as just if he can lead this team to come back from what they were last season?
All right, so I think this year is all about developing young talent and getting the players used to each other.
He's known to be a great leader already. We've seen it in the Cavs. We know what he can do as far as leading a team. But with younger talent now, like having so much young talent on the team, I feel like it'll be kind of scary to see what he can do with LA compared to what he did with Cleveland. Because with Cleveland, you know, you're pretty much leading all these old guys to try and do what they can while they're riding LeBron's back. But in LA, I feel like this will be totally different.
Yeah, if you really think about it, LeBron hasn't had a team of a young stud since probably ever, really.
Right.
The youngest stud he ever played with was Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving, but they were developed.
Mm-hmm. They were starting to hit prime in that time.
And he played with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade when they were already in their prime. He's never played with young talent when they were still just young talent.
Right. And now this whole, like, the entire NBA is developing into something new, too. So we're seeing LeBron adapt to all the new changes that happened when he came into the league compared to now. How much he's had to change his game. And now, looking at all the young talent who pretty much know what the NBA is now, I feel like there's a lot on that the Lakers could teach him instead of him teaching the Lakers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying there.
But at the same time, talking LeBron and Lonzo, people have been saying that now, with LeBron on the team, Lonzo is going to be like the best he's ever been. And it's kind of a bold statement because Lonzo's just fresh in the league. Lonzo's got plenty of room to develop without LeBron there. You know, I feel like LeBron's not going to be the main reason he's going to get better.
LeBron will definitely feed off Lonzo, and Lonzo will definitely feed off LeBron. LeBron's never played with a great playmaker like Lonzo.
Right. And like, that's what Lonzo is, too. Lonzo should be, like, a main shooter on the team. I don't believe that. I feel like Lonzo is a main playmaker. And that's what he should stick to. I feel like Lonzo should stick to that kind of game.
I think Lonzo Ball could very well be the third or fourth best player on a championship team.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he can be your number one or your number two.
No.
I think he's a very Rondo-esque player. Can defend, can rebound, can pass. But the goal is for him to be better than Rondo. And if he can develop a jump shot,
yeah,
he can be really up there.
He'll definitely be scary. And also you have people on this Laker roster like Kyle Kuzma and Brandon Ingram who are getting better as the years go by. So, like, if they don't contend this year, if you give them another, like, 2 years, they're going to be a very scary team in the West.
Yes, like I as you'll see later in this podcast, I do not have the Lakers in the playoffs.
Yeah.
For a very good reason, because this team is very young, and they also added 10 players.
Right.
They added 10 players while adding personalities such as JaVale McGee, Rajon Rondo, Lance Stevenson. There was a fourth person, Rondo, Stevenson, McGee, and Michael Beasley.
Yeah, Beasley, that's who it was.
And also adding LeBron James, because that's quite the personality, because if things aren't going right, he'll call out the team.
Right.
He's done that in the past, he'll do it in the future. And I think that's a lot for a young coach like Luke Walton to handle.
Right. Well, as a counter argument, I kind of see they did add a lot of people, and it's going to be tough for the Lakers to kind of work in where these people are going to fit as far as the scheme they want to put out, depending, because this is going to be an entire new scheme. Like, LA completely revamped. They revamped everything when LeBron came in. But they got rid of some pieces that really weren't developing as well, or some older people as well, like Channing Frye. They got rid of Brooke Lopez. They got rid of Randall. I didn't like the way Randall was progressing, honestly. I feel like he should have been progressing faster. But at the same time, like, adding all these different pieces is still going to be tough.
Adding all these pieces with these big personalities, it's going to be very tough to integrate into a successful team right away. LeBron's a very, very good leader on the court, but he's never played with such young talent. He's never played with hotheads like Lance Stevenson and Rajon Rondo and such a silly player as JaVale McGee. The silliest player he's played with is J.R. Smith, and we all know what happened with that.
I don't want to get into JR. That's terrible.
All right, so since we're on the Lakers, who are you starting?
I'm gonna start Lonzo at the point guard. Lonzo's gonna start 1. I'll have Caldwell Pope at the 2. LeBron at the 3. Probably have Kuzma play the 4 over Ingram, but it's kind of debatable. I can see why people want to play Ingram for length. And then I'll probably have JaVale starting at center with Zubac backing him up.
All right, so if I'm the Lakers, who I would start first of all, I would start Rajon Rondo at the point.
You say Rondo over Ball?
I'd take Rondo over Ball. He's more... Let Lonzo come off the bench. Let him get some shots up. Let LeBron trust him. Because LeBron will definitely want Rondo to start first.
Yeah.
Because he trusts Rondo. And then I would take Pope. I could very easily see Ingram becoming the 2 because Ingram's more of a wing player.
Right, and we've seen in most NBA teams now letting these taller, lengthy players play the 2.
And Ingram also at times when Lonzo was hurt last year, takes some run at the point.
Right.
So to see him at the 2 would be good. But I'm going to take Pope for his defense and for his ability to shoot the ball. Then Ingram at the 3, run James at the 4, and then there's really no other option but JaVale at the 5. If you want to run a really small lineup, I could do James at the 5, Kuzma at the 4, Ingram, Pope, and then Ball.
Yeah, well, and that's what's so good about having LeBron. He's so versatile. You can play him pretty much anywhere, and he'll do it just fine. You know, and this is where the Lakers can get crafty.
They have a lot of depth. You really look forward to Josh Hart because he might get some starts at the 2 guard at sometimes during this season.
Oh yeah, if we had to have like a dark horse on the team of who's gonna come out and really show out this year, I would take Hart. Josh Hart's gonna be nasty.
Josh Hart, I can see him doing really well. I can also look for Wagner from Michigan. He had a very good college career, and with very limited pieces at the center, he can definitely get some pretty good minutes and develop young.
Mm-hmm.
So look for him to play well.
But all in all, I still think the Lakers are going to be scary this year. All right, so moving on, we're going to talk Golden State. We're going to move over a little bit here in some drama. Well, it's not really drama, but the whole DeMarcus Cousins signing. We obviously know that going through his mind was he just wanted to get a ring, finally. I feel like he's tired of losing. But at the same time, it is kind of snaky. Because we saw what happened in the All-Star game with Anthony Davis and all that going on. So it is kind of snaky. At the same time, though, you know, DeMarcus is one of those people, obviously, in the NBA that hates losing and hates not getting his way. So I could see, I didn't really see this coming, but I feel like people could have predicted this.
I have a different viewpoint on the DeMarcus Cousins signing. I feel like he felt very disrespected. Because, I mean, first of all, he didn't get many contract offers because of that scary Achilles injury. Because that's happened to numerous amounts of players. That's the injury that derailed Kobe Bryant's career. That just saps a lot of your athleticism. And so teams are scared of that injury, and they're scared of a hothead like DeMarcus Cousins. So they weren't really offering him money. And the Pelicans offered him a two-year $40 million deal, and he turned it down. That's because he wanted a longer contract and he wanted more money. And so what he did, he took a risk by signing a one-year deal at the minimum, basically, to get a chance to prove that he can come back healthy and prove that he can win. Because the biggest thing you can say about DeMarcus Cousins is that he's not a winner.
Yeah. In all the times with Sacramento, did they even compete in those past couple years?
All right, well, to be perfectly fair, Sacramento is not a good franchise.
No. They've never been a good franchise.
There was one year, I believe it was 2013 to 2014. One of those years, they were kind of close to making the playoffs at one point, but DeMarcus Cousins went down with an injury, and then they fired their coach at the time, which I believe was Mike Malone. And a lot of the games that they played were very close.
Right.
And if you take some of those close games, their records go up.
I think right now the one of the scary things with Golden State is money, because when they didn't really dump too much salary this offseason. They got rid of Pachulia and they got rid of McGee. And they signed, well, they ended up drafting Kobe Evans. And they signed DeMarcus, but they got him for minimum. They got Jerebko, which I honestly don't know why you would take Jerebko, and Damian Lee. And then you also re-sign Kevin Durant for $30 million a year, which is tough. And they got Looney. I'm not sure on his contract, but honestly, they didn't really need to make too many moves, but adding DeMarcus was a hell of a piece, because now you can run a starting five of Curry, Clay, Durant, Draymond, and DeMarcus.
Basically an all-star team.
Pretty much. And I feel like, yeah, that's pretty good way of summing it up. That's pretty much the all-star starting lineup.
You were mentioning the money situation with the Warriors. I think this is the beginning of the decline for the Warriors is this season. Because if you're really looking at their contract, they do not have enough money to keep all these players.
Oh, no.
You got Klay Thompson and Draymond Green both making 18 mil and 17 mil. They're both making 18 mil and 17 mil. And Klay Thompson's up for a contract extension, and there's rumors that he might sign with the Lakers. Draymond Green, he's got 2 years, but after that, he's going to go in somewhere else from what I was reading. Kevin Durant, after this season, has a player option. So depending on how this season goes, this could be the last season of the Golden State Warriors as we know them.
And it'll be kind of crazy to see when free agency comes if Golden State is going to try and make cuts just to make these moves to get them to come back. Because I feel like if they can, I mean, it'll be tough. They're going to have to get rid of a lot of role in order to afford these guys to come back.
The hardest thing with this team is its depth. Its depth is not very good.
Yeah, exactly.
Looking at this roster, you got Curry, you got Durant, you got Thompson, you got Green. And you got Cousins, who's not going to come back till almost the All-Star break.
Right.
And behind them, you got Sean Livingston and Andre Iguodala. Andre Iguodala only played, I don't think he played the whole season last year.
No.
He played 64 games, but it is his worst season yet. And he's making 16 mil and 17 mil for the next 2 years. So they need to trade that contract.
Right.
Sean Livingston played a pretty good amount of games, but he's fallen off too.
Livingston is on the decline.
They lost. Nick Young didn't re-sign with them. David West retired. They lost JaVale McGee. And so they added Jonas Jerebko, Kevin Looney. This bench is not looking good. And then you look at the center position, that's even worse. If you're not getting Cousins until the All-Star break, your starting center is going to be either Jordan Bell or Damian Jones or Kevin Looney.
But at this time, you got to think they had JaVale McGee at the time when they were, well, they're still competing, but in the last couple years they had McGee, and McGee can do what he needs to do as a center, but he's not a top line center. Same thing, neither is Kevin Looney. And we saw that the Warriors, they don't really need a center to compete because their wings and their outside are so great and they know how to work an offense. So honestly, I don't think not having a center is going to hurt them.
I think you got a solid point there, but they also had veterans like Omar Caspery and David West and Zaza Pachulia to help the bench depth.
I can see that. Yeah, they're young now, which is harder. They don't have veterans anymore.
But if the Warriors do not have to be the 1 seed. They don't have to be the 2 seed. They don't have to be the 3 or 4, 5th or 6th seed. They just need to be in the playoffs.
Right.
I'm not saying they'll go as low as 6.
Oh no, I don't think they will.
If anything, the lowest they'll go is 5th, and that's not likely.
And that's stretching it.
That's stretching it, but that's as low as they can go.
Right.
But they just need to make the playoffs, because by then, once DeMarcus comes back, It's all solid from there.
Yeah.
They don't need LeBron showed this years in and years out. You don't need to be the first seed to
Oh
do
no,
well.
you don't.
He went to the finals as the fourth seed last year. Carried a terrible Cleveland team.
Terrible Cleveland. Terrible.
And only got through the first round through some questionable calls.
Some man, and I give LeBron credit 'cause he worked his way through them damn playoffs.
He played his ass off. I respect him a lot for that.
That's tough. And honestly, seeing him go to 7 games against Indiana and then sweep a top seeded East or a top seeded East team in Toronto was ridiculous. How do you go into playing the first round? You go to 7 games against a 4 seeded? A 4 seeded Indiana team?
5th seed.
We were 5th seed, that's right. Against a 5th seeded Indiana team, go to 7 games in that 5th seed team, number 1 seed in the East. And you're thinking maybe you should be scared because they are the number 1 seed. And then you sweep them. Don't know how you do that. So Toronto needs to step their game up, which they tried, but we'll get into that later. It's unbelievable.
And then after they sweep the Raptors, they go to 7 against the Celtics, and then they get swept.
Yeah. It was like a total flip-flop. It's insane. But I do give him his credit. When I heard that Cleveland and Golden State were in the playoffs again, or in the finals again, didn't really pay attention. I was tired of seeing Golden State and Cleveland in the playoffs. That's just me. But I was just getting tired of it. But at the same time, everybody needs to give LeBron his credit for what he did.
But the last thing I'll say about the Warriors is I really do think this will be the last year of their dynasty, if not next year.
Yeah.
I mean, Klay Thompson's been great on taking contract reductions and not being a focal point of the offense because he could be a star player, or he is a star player, but he could be the number 1 option on many other teams. Draymond Green would be silly to leave this team, but I can see him doing it. But as we've seen with the bad boy Detroit Pistons, after years of dominance, people get chippy, you get tired. Eventually, the team just kind of implodes on itself. And the Warriors have been dominant for the last 4 or 5 years. So eventually it's going to implode.
All right, so we're going to get into some moves around free agency, offseason, some moves we want to talk about. First, we're going to get into the Ryan Anderson trade, which was honestly, I think, in favor of Phoenix. I think they got a good pick out of this. Houston trading away Ryan Anderson and DeAnthony Melton, somebody I don't care for, to Phoenix for Marquise Chris and Brandon Knight. Now, in this aspect, Ryan Anderson had a really big contract. Okay, he had 2 years left for $41 million, but he ended up taking a cut in his second year to 15.6 to clear way to trade for Brandon Knight in Phoenix. So you can tell he wanted to leave. And if you look last year, playing 66 games, he shot 43% from the field, 39% from 3, which isn't bad on the amount of attempts he had. I like this is because Phoenix, in my mind, needed another scorer or another role-playing scorer. And Ryan Anderson can be a role player. He doesn't have to start. Now, when you add Marquise Chris and Brandon Knight into Houston, I see them riding the back of the bench. I don't even see them getting minutes. I don't see any of these assets like being useful for Houston. So I could see, like, with Ryan Anderson moving, at least out of this, Phoenix got an asset that they can put. I feel like Houston just traded away salary this time.
I feel like you're underestimating Marquise Chris and Brandon Knight. Brandon Knight's been injured the last few years, but he's shown to be a solid point guard, and it's good to have a solid point guard for this Houston Rockets team, especially with the injuries that's been happening to Chris Paul in his old age. You really need a solid backup for when Paul's down, because they were 1 game away from being the NBA champions, and Chris Paul went down. If you have a solid backup, maybe they win that game. Marquise Chris, when he was drafted a few years back, he was a very player you had to build on. He was very raw. He was a raw player, and Houston's shown that they can develop young talent such as Clint Capella. So I really like the idea of Marquise Chris getting a new, fresh start with a winning organization. Because sometimes winning fixes everything.
Yeah, I can see it, but at the same time, you know, we've seen players that we've seen young talent that try to go to winning teams and kind of just end up sitting there, and they don't really have or like they don't really get that chance to develop or anything like that. So it's tough because knowing that Houston can develop talent like that, if they do, I feel like if Marquise Chris does develop and works well, he's not going to be a viable asset in the roster until the next like 2 to 3 years. And in that time, Houston might just dump him. But if Houston dumps him, it'll be a wrong move if they get him to actually develop, score more, help on the defensive end. If they can get him to, I feel like if Marquise Chris can become like a defensive star, it would be hard to stop. But I don't see him being an offensive asset.
I think Marquise Chris will end up starting.
Starting in Houston?
Starting in Houston. They don't have very many big men to say.
I don't know. It's tough.
I mean, after losing Luke, they're really trying to make up for the Luke Malamute and Trevor Ariza leaving. And adding Marquise Chris will definitely help because right now the lineup's going to look like Chris Paul, James Harden, Melo, Marquise Chris, and then Clint Capella. I could see them moving Melo to the 4, but then you need to find someone to play the 3 position. And they could probably start James Ennis at the 3 position.
I don't think I'd start James Ennis. I would probably start PJ Tucker.
Yeah, I could see that.
PJ Tucker is more of a scoring asset, and he's a little bit better on the defensive end to me.
All right, now I kind of forgot about PJ Tucker. I'd probably put Melo at the 4.
And run PJ Tucker at the 3. That's what I would do.
But I think Melo would be really good off the bench. And
Melo needs to take a bench role. He needs to understand that he can't start every NBA team he plays on. If he would go to Golden State and say he wants a starting role, there's no way he would make it.
That was correct. Marquise Chris also is 21 years old. I think he can really develop with Chris Paul and James Harden. Chris Paul can make players better. He made DeAndre Jordan look like an all-star. DeAndre Jordan's not an all-star.
No, definitely not. I mean, let's see. PJ Tucker averaged about 28 minutes, shot about 39% from the field, averaged about 6 a game. For 27 minutes, that's okay, I guess. It's not absolutely great, but I feel like it's still starter-worthy in this lineup, in this type of depth.
Well, while we're on Houston, do you think losing Luke Mamabute and Trevor Ariza will hurt?
Ariza.
I think it will hurt, but do you think it will hurt their title chances?
Okay, so we're talking Mbamute and Trevor Ariza. Mbamute, I don't think was that big of a factor. He's a great defensive player, and losing him, I don't think will play a big part. Losing Ariza is gonna hurt a lot because he was a main scoring option.
And his defense was very much appreciated.
Mm-hmm. And he was taking care of the ball. 0.8 turnovers a game.
And now this trade in the Suns' favor. I think the Rockets won the trade.
You think the Rockets won it?
Yes. But I think this trade also really helps the Suns, as you said, because the biggest problem with the Suns is that they have a great scoring presence with Devin Booker.
Mm-hmm.
But after Devin Booker...
Who do you got?
TJ Warren can score, but he can't shoot the 3 very well. Josh Jackson's a young developing piece. They just got DeAndre Ayton. I think Ryan Anderson definitely helped their offense.
Mm-hmm. It's another option to go to, and it's also another teaching to give, because Ryan Anderson can give insight on how to get open for shots because he does that well. Ryan Anderson knows a lot about pick and pop, knows a lot about running off screens, getting open, a lot about this kind of thing.
Also, look out for DeAnthony Melton.
DeAnthony Milton,
whatever his name. He had a very solid summer league, so having a young player at the point is going to be very useful for the Phoenix Suns because their point guard rotation is very slim at the moment. So having him over Brandon Knight, I think, is maybe not an upgrade, but it could be very beneficial to have another young player.
Right. And also, now we're talking about second scoring options. You have a 1, Devin Booker, you have a 2 in Anderson, and now you have a 3 in Ariza. I mean, they're gonna be a really high scoring team.
I really think Josh Jackson will definitely score a lot more this season.
Oh yeah, I can see it. I see Ariza this year as more of a role player off the bench, like a solid role, maybe like a seventh man.
All right, so pre All-Star break, Josh Jackson was averaging 11 points per game, and after the All-Star break, he averaged 18 points per game. That's only 20 games, but in those 20 games, he really took off.
Right.
And so hopefully he could continue to build off that performance. And having another scoring threat such as Ryan Anderson or Trevor Ariza gets the attention off him and allows him to play his game a little more openly.
Right. So we've talked Ryan Anderson, talked a little bit about Ariza. We need to talk Kawhi. Yeah. Kawhi and DeRozan. Okay, so in the trade, I'll start. In the trade, Spurs trade Kawhi and Danny Green to Toronto for DeRozan, Jacob Poeltl, and a protected 2019 first-round pick. So, who won the trade at the start? In your mind, who won the trade? Because in my mind, it's tough to tell.
I think it's a very even trade.
I think it's really even because with Kawhi, we didn't get to see him much, like at all. And with DeRozan, you have a great star, but he's a great star in the East, in the weak East.
I think people are underrating this move for the Spurs. A lot of people don't like DeMar DeRozan, a lot of people think the Spurs are going to be out of the playoffs. I don't agree with that statement because with the team, you should have seen some of the starting lines that they had last year at the Spurs. They weren't very talented team.
No, they weren't.
They weren't very talented players, but Greg Popovich is such an amazing coach, and Kawhi Leonard only played 9 games last year, and still they made the playoffs. And now you're telling me they're adding an all-star starter to their team, and they're going to not make the playoffs? I really think that DeMar DeRozan can really develop under Greg Popovich. Greg Popovich has made role players into great players. He can make an all-star into a better all-star.
Oh, yeah.
And playing with LaMarcus Aldridge, that'll be very beneficial to his game.
Seeing the way he developed people like Tony Parker, like Manu Ginobili, and now he has an already formidable all-star who's still young coming to his team. Popovich can work wonders. That's why he's one of the greatest coaches of all time. Popovich can work wonders.
I mean, the Spurs will definitely hurt with missing Danny Green and Kyle Anderson. Tony Parker will hurt a little bit, but I think they can move past that.
Tony Parker, they can work around. I can see that.
But
they added one addition I like too is Marco Bellinelli.
Marco Bellinelli will definitely help. Keeping DeJounte Murray will definitely help them out. DeJounte Murray is a very young, developing point guard.
And they also, who else did they keep? They kept Rudy Gay.
Rudy Gay was hurt a lot of last season, so let's see how he comes back from that.
Hopefully I like him I like Rudy Gay for the defensive end.
And really look for
lengthy.
Lonnie Walker the fourth. Watch out for him. He's a very, very athletic player, and I think he can do very well with this team. He could definitely replace Danny Green. Maybe not the defensive aspect, but on at least the shooting aspect.
So if you look at the Raptors roster, you got Kyle Lowry that you can start at point, which I would still keep him at point guard. Norman Powell would probably start the shooting guard. Then you've got Kawhi. You still have Serge Ibaka too. You got Serge Ibaka, and you've got a well-rounded center in Jonas Valanciunas. That's kind of tough. And you have Greg Monroe, who is a solid, very, very solid, could be 6-man, honestly.
I think the trade for the Raptors could be very beneficial. Obviously, adding a player they got the better player in the deal.
Yeah, they did.
But that's if he comes back healthy.
Well, and I'm hoping that now with this trade, Kawhi can kind of settle down and relax a bit because in San Antonio, there was a lot going on. There was just a lot surrounding him. And now that he's out and he's somewhere else, hopefully he can just settle down, play his game how he's supposed to, and the Raptors can compete because they got the first seed last year without Kawhi, but they had DeRozan, and now that they have Kawhi and they have pretty much a all-around superstar in Kawhi Leonard, I feel like they could even be better. But at the same time, adding him is gonna like completely flip-flop their scheme.
I think they use this term a lot with draft prospects, boomer bust. I think the Raptors are a boomer bust team this year because they can either go higher with Kawhi or they can fall.
Right. It's either a long shot or it's a complete dump.
Because honestly, they might be really good this year, but that doesn't mean he's going to stay.
Yeah. They don't. Oh God. I don't.
I did read an article that states that he's going to give him a chance.
Right. If Toronto makes a top 3 seed and they hit the Eastern Conference Finals, then Kawhi will probably stay.
I feel like he'll only stay if they make the finals and they don't get swept.
Really? I still think the Eastern Conference Finals is enough. I feel like if they can make it at least that far, Kawhi will be content.
You also got to think he's going to get offers from Los Angeles, and the main reason why he wanted out of San Antonio was because of the fact that he wasn't going to get a big shoe deal because he was at a boring team.
Right.
NBA fans love the Spurs, but that's like NBA fans that actually watch basketball. Your casual fans, the Spurs are They're not flashy. They're not exciting. And so Kawhi needs to be in a big market to where he can get more exposure so we can get a bigger shoe contract.
Right.
And he's not going to get that in Toronto either. And that's why he wants to go to Los Angeles. Clippers or Lakers, it doesn't matter to him. He just wants to play for a big market team. But if he gets a lot of shine and love in Toronto, maybe he'll stay.
It'll be tough because Kawhi wants to be like a very well-known player. He's already well-known. We all know who he is. But it's like Kawhi wants to be branded.
Kawhi Leonard can be the claw of the Toronto Raptors.
Right. Like he wants branded, like completely. Oh God, I hate to compare him to this, but he wants to be like the LeBrons, like the Kobes, like the Dame Lillards, the James Hardens, who all have these shoes, these endorsements.
PG,
That's what Kawhi
Wall.
wants to be. And like you said, San Antonio, he wasn't getting anywhere with that. So, and that's going to be the tough thing too, is if he doesn't stay, like if he's debating on staying in Toronto and he gets offers from LA, New York, like Philly, place like that, they can make things happen. In Philadelphia, in New York, in LA, they can get these deals. They can make endorsement contracts. So it'll be tough for him to actually say yes to Toronto, even if Toronto gives him a great deal. Like offers him so much money that he.
Because right now they can offer him the biggest contract.
Oh yeah, they can max it.
They can do the super max. Other teams cannot because they have bird rights on him.
Right. It'll be tough.
It'll be tough.
It's gonna be tough. All right, so we got a couple gonna be under the rims, under the radar teams that we want to talk about. Some dark horse teams really think are gonna make an impact this season. We've got some of them, and we'll just kind of go into some information, talk about why we think they're really gonna make a contending aspect this year, I guess. So I guess I'll start. And number one, I went with Dallas. I feel like Dallas is gonna be really underrated this year. You've got Devin Harris that you picked up, great scorer, great playmaker. You pick up DeAndre Jordan for the center spot, which I don't think you can run an offense through DeAndre, but he'll get stops. He'll get stops when you need him, and he'll get stops in clutch time. That's great. And you still also have Dirk back. You got Dirk back for one more season. And Dallas, if you're going to make an impact, you got to make it now. Because I know Dirk wants to try and get back to that competitive state, but this is probably the last year he can do it. You know, I feel like this is it for him.
Also, adding the number 3 pick of the draft, Luka Doncic, to that team is definitely going to help him soar.
Oh, yeah.
And another year of Dennis Smith Jr. getting that much more experience, because that kid could jump.
Mm-hmm.
Now he just needs more game time. Losing players like Seth Curry and Yogi Ferrell hurt, but they added the College Player of the Year with the number 33 pick of the draft, Jalen Brunson, and I think he could very well be a steal of the draft.
Right. And you also got rid of Nerlens Noel, who
Didn't contribute much at
didn't
all.
contribute, wasn't developing. They did what Dallas did. They did everything right. They got their right picks. They re-signed the right people. They picked people up that they needed. They pretty much built. They just have to go out and make it work. That's the whole thing with Dallas. But honestly, I could see them hitting the playoffs this year.
And also, number 6 with the 60th pick of the NBA draft.
Oh
They
yeah,
got
Kostas.
they got Kostas Antetokounmpo, which I don't think he's gonna be anything like his brother. But getting someone from the same family as Giannis, that's a risk I can take with the number 60.
Oh yeah,
Like,
because they're around each other.
they're
They're
around each other.
brothers.
They're brothers. They have the same genes. There's always a good chance that he could. I don't think he'll be as good as Giannis, but he could.
He could develop.
All right. I like the idea of the Mavericks rising up. I think they have a good shot at it. It only really works if they stay away from running offense through DeAndre Jordan, because I don't think you can.
Yeah. No, like I said, adding DeAndre just gives them defense.
I still think that they should still try to rebuild. I don't see why they would try to compete in the NBA right now. Adding DeAndre Jordan, who I believe is at least 33 years old. He might be younger, but he seems way older to me. He is 30 years old. He's getting older, and centers, as they get older, especially when they depend on their athleticism, their game's going to decline fast, which is why it's very smart of them to only sign him to a 1-year deal.
Right.
Dirk Nowitzki's getting up there in age. I'm not saying it's going to be at the beginning of the season, but we can very well see him coming off the bench at some point this year.
Oh yeah, and honestly, this is Dirk's last season. I feel like this is it. I don't think he can play another one after.
I think it's 1 or 2 more years. He said something.
He said he wanted to play 2.
Mhm.
He wanted to play this season and next season.
Mhm.
But the way he's declined over the past 2 years, I don't see him playing another season.
I think they could be a very well under the radar team, but I really think they should have still tried to maybe go get another good draft pick first, because they got a young core of Dennis Smith Jr., Harrison Barnes, and Luka Doncic.
Mm-hmm.
And adding DeAndre Jordan, that doesn't really help them very much for their future, because he could very well sign somewhere else, and I don't think sign too long. He doesn't fit with their current age group. And every year there's numerous amounts of centers coming into the draft that can stretch the floor. Like this year alone, there's probably 7 or 8 stretch centers.
Right.
And like the lottery. Every year there's young centers coming into the league, and I think you take a chance on those instead of a guy who's proven that he can't even shoot beyond 15 feet.
Yeah.
But he does add a lot of rebounding and a lot of defense, so this could very well help them maybe sneak in. I say if they're a dark horse, I say their ceiling is an 8th seed.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this year they're gonna contend. They're gonna be in the flip flop for the 8th.
Last year they won 24 games and they were 13th. I can easily see them winning about 10 more games, being around that 10-11 spot, but they could very easily go up higher. One of the teams I have for my dark horse, we already talked about them earlier, but I'll just go a little more in depth. I think that's the Phoenix Suns. I think adding Trevor Ariza and adding Ryan Anderson will definitely help this team with their spacing and their shooting and their defense. Adding the number 1 pick of the draft, DeAndre Ayton. Oh man, that guy's a beast. He can score, but he needs to learn how to defend. So they're going to get scored on a lot, but if their offense can get
I was
up.
gonna say if they can make it up with transition offense, how they do running gun, running a running gun offense with people like that.
Yeah.
I could easily.
Devin Booker can easily average 26, 27 points a game. I think he averaged 25 last year, I believe.
Right.
Or it might have been 22.
They were 21-61 last year. I could see it easy 30 wins if they could get a transition offense going.
Oh, I can see them. I can see them being the 8th seed, but I can see them more than likely or not being the 10th or 11th seed, just of how deep that Western Conference is. But I think the Phoenix Suns are one to watch out for, especially in the future. The weakest position right now is the point guard position. But looking at their roster with Josh Jackson, another year of development, TJ Warren's a scorer, I really think they have a chance to go up higher. if not this year, but next year.
Right. Another one I had, and I know we've talked about it already, but I had the Lakers as a dark horse team. Like we said in the beginning, I think adding LeBron, adding JaVale, adding Rondo, adding Lance, all these people, it's just more young talent to learn from. And with LeBron being able to carry a scoring load and carry a completely garbage Cleveland team to the finals, there's no telling what he can do with young talent this year. So I could see the Lakers high up in the playoffs, probably 6th seed, maybe 5th seed. But honestly, with LeBron being able to carry a load like that, I don't see why they shouldn't make the playoffs this year.
All right, my second under the radar team I had was the Eastern Conference team, the Chicago Bulls.
Tough.
That's tough. I mean, you got to think the East is really weak. And that's my biggest reason. I can see that last year, Chicago Bulls won 27 games and lost 55. But during that 27 games, they had Nikola Mirotic, and for a while they were rolling. They were rolling, doing real well. Then they traded him. But another year of Larry Markkinen getting more experience, training his body. He did some body work. He's got some more muscles. He can get more rebounds. He shot from the free throw last year, 36%. That can easily go up. He averaged 15 points per game. Chris Dunn, with only playing 52 games, averaged 13 points and 6 assists. 6 assists is not that bad, especially in today's NBA. I think he could take another step. Adding Zach LaVine, hopefully coming back from his injury. I don't have the biggest faith in him, but he has shown that he can dunk and he can shoot, and those are two useful aspects in this league. Jabari Parker. I'm a big fan of Jabari Parker if he's healthy. I was
about to say, I feel like Jabari Parker's the deciding factor.
This is his make or break year.
Chicago's season, because Jabari has to carry scoring load. Jabari's going to have to be that person. If not, then what do you go to? You go to Zach LaVine, showing that he can dunk and he can score, but not at a good average.
Bobby Portis is another young player that plays very well for that Chicago Bulls team. And adding Wendell Carter Jr., the number 7 pick in the draft, a lot of, according to the rookie survey, a lot of people think Wendell Carter Jr. will have the best career out of all the rookies. That's what the rookies said themselves.
Huh.
That's what they said. He was the one who won that title. And adding Chandler Hutchinson, a 4-year college player, that never hurts. Because he could be ready right now. With as weak as the East is and the shift in power that's happened of LeBron leaving, I really think that they could be as high as 7, but as low as probably the 12th seed. One last thing. Adding Jabari Parker and Zach LaVine if healthy, both those players can score the ball amazingly, but defense is going to be trouble. So it's another thing where if they can outscore their opponents, they'll be pretty solid.
My next team's kind of, it's like, how am I going to describe it? It's not really a dark horse for the season. This is a dark horse in the playoffs that I think is going to be pretty bad. Because I feel like for a fact I know they're going to make the playoffs. And it's the Pelicans. So I like the Pelicans. They picked up Elfrid Payton and Julius Randle in free agency. They got rid of Cousins, which is fine. They lost Cousins. But we saw what the Pelicans could do without Cousins. So, honestly, they didn't need Cousins. They never needed Cousins. And they lost Rondo, which is okay. You don't need that piece in Rondo. You re-signed Ian Clark, which is an okay bench presence. You still got Anthony Davis, who's pretty much on his top right now. He's in his prime, in my opinion. You still got Drew Holiday running the point. You throw in a backup in Jahlil Okafor, which is going to be, he's a bum or bust, or like a bust or boom, or whatever you called it. Because he could be either or. We don't even know. But I feel like Elfrid Payton is a great backup guard for Drew Holiday. So we started the season, he was in Orlando, averaged 28 minutes, averaged about 13 points. And then he went to Phoenix for another 19, still averaged about 11. That's going to be tough to beat. And then, like I said, you still have Anthony Davis there, who's pretty much in his prime. And taking on teams that don't have centers, like Golden State, like Los Angeles, it'll be tough. I feel like it'll be rough because you can run an offense through Anthony Davis. It's not hard.
I won't say much about this just because of our next topic. But what I will say about Elfrid Payton, this could be a career year for him. He's still pretty young. He's going to be on a team with better talent, and this might make a world of difference. He actually got a haircut, and you can see when he shoots, his hair does get in his way. I think that can make the world of difference for him. May not make him an all-star or anything, but that could definitely help his shooting percentage, which lets people respect his three a little bit more.
Right.
Which opens up the floor. All right, so my last under the radar team is the Denver Nuggets, and I really like this Nuggets team. They added who could be the steal of the draft, Michael Porter Jr., who at one point was considered the number 1 pick of the draft, and he has fallen down, and he fell all the way to the 14th, and that helps him at the 3 position. They added Isaiah Thomas, who can score the ball like crazy and can very well work well with Nikola Jokic, the Joker, who is a great passing big man, and I think they play off with each other. And Paul Millsap only played, I believe it was 50 games last year. Paul Millsap played only 38 games last year, and they barely missed the playoffs. Imagine a full year with Paul Millsap. I really think they can rise up the rankings, and Millsap and Jokic together, I think they can demolish front courts in this league. And all they lost was they traded away Kenneth Faried, which I'm okay with. He was an energy guy. Traded away Wilson Chandler, that's fine. I think those things you can live with. They re-signed Will Barton, who's a solid 6th man off the bench. And another year of Jamal Murray and Gary Harris getting better, and Nikola Jokic getting better, I think this team can make some waves in the playoffs.
Okay, so we're gonna move to some teams we think are falling off this year, or we think are just kind of gonna be down in the dumps, pretty much, kind of like rebuilding teams, but not necessarily rebuilding. I'm gonna say my number one, who I think is gonna completely drench, is Miami, because you made no moves to get any better this offseason. No moves at all.
I think the Miami Heat are a very solid team. They have no stars really. Goran Dragic was an all-star after 3 or 4 players had been hurt. Hassan Whiteside only played 54 games last year, and he was almost non-existent in that 76ers series because he was useless against Joel Embiid. And you know what? That's terrible because look at the new breed of center. Joel Embiid, Kristaps Porzingis, Karl-Anthony Towns, Nikola Jokic, they can all shoot. They can all stretch the floor. If you can't play against that, then you're down in this league.
You have to be a stretch in this league.
Roy Hibbert disappeared because of that very reason.
Oh yeah, like there were big man centers that completely. Al Jefferson, he's completely gone. That was old age, but he still disappeared because everybody was being able to shoot these stretch bigs were just in his face draining threes because they could shoot a 3-ball. Like all of these defensive minded in the post centers are all falling off now because everybody can shoot. And it's hard for them to keep up and guard now. But like I said, if you're a team, if you are Miami, you're a team, you're in the East that went 44-38, you re-sign 2 players, and then you make no moves in the offseason to get better, while these other teams have been completely shutting you out, and you make no moves to get better, you can't expect to move up from where you're at.
If anything, they'll stay where they're at, if not lower. I mean, I don't think many teams in the East, that besides the top teams, move up. A lot of the lower teams kind of stayed where they're at.
I feel like if Miami's going to move up, they're going to be above. They're going to be probably above Cleveland. That's probably about it.
But I think the only hope that Miami has right now, because Goran Dragic's getting old. He's going to be 31. He can't carry the scoring load forever. Deion Waiters has proven to be inconsistent, and he's coming off an injury-plagued year. I really believe they need Justice Winslow and Bam Adebayo, who are both very young players, to take the next step.
Oh yeah, they need to step up.
I think the Heat need to blow it up. They need to trade Whiteside. His contract isn't worth it. He goes after blocks. Yeah, you can get 4 blocks a game, but that doesn't mean you're playing good defense. They need to trade that Tyler Johnson contract because they got Josh Richardson, who plays better than him, and they got Justice Winslow, who plays better than him. And Kelly Olynyk, I think he's a very solid center, but he needs to be able to rebound a little bit better. But I really don't think they're going to be as good as this year as they were last year, unless those young players take the next step. All right, one of my teams I have falling off, which is contradicting one of your dark horse teams, is the Pelicans. Losing Cousins will hurt more than you think because Anthony Davis played his ass off. But Anthony Davis, he's not known for being healthy the entire season.
Well, neither was Cousins.
Cousins before this year has been pretty healthy his career. Anthony Davis has a career average of playing 65 games a year. His rookie year, 60. The next year, 66, 68, 61. In the last 2 years, yes, he played 75 games each, but he can easily get hurt again. And I think losing Rajon Rondo hurts more than you'd think because Rondo's a competitor. During the playoffs, he just goes beast mode. And I think adding Elfrid Payton, he's a lower version of Rajon Rondo. And Julius Randle, who I like a lot, is kind of a similar player to DeMarcus Cousins. I think he could help him, but I don't think they did enough to get better. I think their wings are very weak. Their starting shooting guard, Go Purdue, is E'Twaun Moore. I don't think this team is going to compete in the playoffs very well. They could make it, but if they do, I think it's 7th seed.
Honestly, like, with DeMarcus Cousins being out, we were able to see what Anthony Davis could do by himself. Okay? So I'm looking at this as a situation like LeBron did in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
So if LeBron can take an entire team, but obviously these are two different type of people. I know Anthony Davis and LeBron James cannot be comparable in certain ways. But if you look at it and see the talent that they got rid of compared to the talent that they added between New Orleans, I believe is a complete flip-flop. I think they lost what they needed to lose and gained what they needed to gain. I completely disagree with you. I think Elfrid Payton is a better point guard than Rondo. I know Rondo's a competitor. He's always been a competitor, but I feel like Elfrid Payton is developing way more and is going to be a better point guard than Rondo is. And I like Randall. I like Randall for his aggressiveness, his attack on the boards, and his defense.
I'm calling you out. Earlier you said you didn't like how he was developing.
Who, Randall?
Yeah.
I didn't like how he was developing on the Lakers.
Okay.
With the Lakers squad,
they had other young talent.
Yeah, they had a lot of young talent that they had to look after.
Okay, so too much young talent to develop, and he wasn't getting enough shine. Okay,
Now Randall has a base. Now Randall has a base in New Orleans.
And he has something to prove.
Exactly.
Because his contract wasn't that great.
Oh, yeah. So I think now the Pelicans are going to have a real shot because Randall's going to develop throughout the year. And when he gets good, you're going to be scared.
I don't know. I really I don't think they improved as much as other teams have.
I mean, they did great. Don't get me wrong. They did great. New Orleans was 48-34. But I see them adding another 10 to 12 wins.
10 to 12. You think they can be a 60-win team?
Yeah.
I don't think they added
I
enough
can see them being a
talent.
60-win team. Absolutely. My next team was Cleveland. One, for obvious reasons. LeBron's gone. You don't have anybody that can carry that scoring load now. Plus, you lost Jeff Green. I liked Jeff Green. Also, your worst mistake was re-signing Kevin Love. Because I think when Cleveland lost LeBron, that was a sign that they need to rebuild completely. They need to tank. They need to completely tank out and rebuild. But they decide to sign Kevin Love back. And they added Sam Decker, Channing Frye, and honestly, the only person I'm looking forward to seeing is Colin Sexton. It's the only one I want to watch in Cleveland.
I think the Cavaliers are lying to us.
How so?
I think right now they're saying they're trying to compete. I don't think they're trying to compete at all.
Oh no.
They're saying they're trying to compete by re-signing Kevin Love. What they did was very smart. They re-signed him, and if it goes well, if Kevin Love plays like he used to in Minnesota, that builds up his trade value because right now his trade value isn't as high. If he has a great first half of the season and they play decently well, which they could in the East, and they get that trade value up, they can get young assets and trade picks for him. That's what they're trying to do right now. Because there's no way. I don't think they can make the playoffs with this current roster.
No, I think if anything, they're like 10 to 12 seed.
They're going to. I think there's some teams that really improved this year, and the Cavaliers, obviously losing LeBron James, that hurts more than anything. Jeff Green, that hurt losing him. Rodney Hood still hasn't decided if he's going to play with them.
And Rodney Hood, what did Rodney Hood average? Rodney, he didn't. I know he was better in
Utah. He was better in Utah.
Yeah, he was a bum in the playoffs. Rodney Hood cannot play in playoff basketball. I'm telling you that now. And who else they got? They've got Korver, who's just a catch and shoot asset. Really can't play defense.
Go through this roster. They need Larry Nance Jr. to develop. Tristan Thompson, he's kind of plateaued, and he fell out of the playoffs for a while, then came right back in. Jordan Clarkson I like a lot, but I don't think he can be your face of the franchise. J.R. Smith's done.
Yeah,
he needs to retire. He had career worst year, and he made a boneheaded mistake in the biggest stage of the playoffs. And I don't think Kyle Korver will finish the year off with the Cleveland Cavaliers. He'll be traded because he can shoot the ball that well. He'll be traded like that. Colin Sexton can develop really young, I believe. I'm really looking forward to seeing him playing. George Hill, I love him, but he had a down year after making a big contract. I think he's on his way off.
Better in Utah as well.
Better in Utah as well. Better in Indiana. He's a solid defender, very solid defender, but I think his time in the league is coming to a close. He might be another trade piece, but this team is definitely going to fall off.
Oh yeah, like I said, I see him dropping 10 to 12, maybe even 13. Because I just don't see very high scoring potential. I don't see great defensive potential. I pretty much think this team is a flop now.
I only have one more fall off team because I had scratched off a few because you said Heat and the Cavaliers. This one, I think is going to be the Portland Trailblazers. I don't think they're falling out of the playoffs or anything like that, but there's no way they're going to be the third seed. Last year they got swept in the first round by the Pelicans, and I really don't see them. I don't see them staying the third seed. Damian Lillard had a hell of a year. He was mad about all of the naysayers, and he took off. He made an All-NBA first-team selection, I believe. I just don't think he can continue this sustained success with the team that they have because I don't believe the Blazers improved that much this offseason. Portland Trailblazers add Seth Curry and Nick Stauskas, Anthony Simmons, and Gary Trent Jr. Two of those are draft picks. Seth Curry will actually help them out pretty well, I believe. Nick Stauskas, I don't believe is going to help them too much. Simmons, he's a boomer bust prospect, so that could be better for them in the future. They lost Ed Davis, which hurts a lot. Losing Shabazz Napier, that hurts a bit, but adding Seth Curry kind of counteracts that. They re-signed Joseph Nurkic, but what they really need to do is trade some of their bad contracts, like Evan Turner's.
Right.
I really don't think they're going to be as high as they were this year. And if they fall off, because a lot of teams in the West got better, if they start falling off and the Blazers start to get worried, we can easily see them trading one of the two, Lillard and McCollum.
My last fall-off team, to your surprise, and I don't think they're going to fall off hard compared to the 47 and 35 they did last year. I don't think I see 47 wins out of this team, is San Antonio. I don't see 47 wins. You add Bellinelli, which is a good asset. You add Cunningham, which isn't bad. You get DeRozan from the trade and Patel from the trade. You lose Kyle Anderson. Lose Danny Green, which obviously hurts. Lose Kawhi Leonard, which obviously hurts. But you also lose a veteran in Tony Parker. And with adding DeRozan has to... You're going to have to find a way to incorporate DeRozan into the San Antonio Spurs scheme. And doing that and bringing in an entire new set of like offense, defense that DeRozan has no idea about, I feel like is going to take time. And this season, I feel like should be a learning season for the Spurs, and they should take their time with things. And then next season, they need to come out, sign a couple good role players, get their bench depth a little deeper.
I agree with some of what you're saying, but I can see them falling off just because of all the other teams developing. Kyle Anderson's going to hurt a little bit more than we think, but Lonnie Walker, the fourth, watch out for him.
Number 18.
Draft number 18. Losing Danny Green's going to hurt a lot.
So Lonnie Walker, college, 41% from the field, 34% from three, averaged about 11 points a game. Okay.
I mean, under Greg Popovich, anything's possible.
Right. Like, we've seen how Greg can develop so much young talent in the NBA.
I think Greg Popovich really developed Kawhi Leonard very well. A lot of people make fun of Indiana because they traded Kawhi Leonard when they drafted him. At the time, Kawhi Leonard was the 15th pick of the draft, and we got what we needed. We didn't need another small forward. We had Danny Granger and Paul George at the time. Paul George wasn't an all-star or anything at that time, but we got a point guard, which we needed, and we traded a project in Kawhi Leonard. I say to this day, if Kawhi Leonard's in Indiana, I don't think he is who he is today.
No. And Lonnie Walker should take being coached under Greg Popovich as a privilege because he could have gone anywhere else.
I think this is the best pick that the Spurs have had in a while. Yeah, this is the highest pick that they've had in a long time. The last time they had a pick that was under the 20s, number one pick in 1997. So since 1997, they have not had a pick underneath 20. So let's see what Greg Popovich can do with a decent player. Lonnie Walker was also a fringe lottery pick at the time, but he fell to the 18th pick.
Right.
One last team I'll go over real quick that I forgot to mention as a dark horse is the Memphis Grizzlies. Yes, they were They were a terrible team last year with a 22-60 record, but before then they were a playoff contender every year in and year out. Marc Gasol and Mike Conley were both hurt last year. You add the fourth pick of Jaren Jackson Jr. You add Kyle Anderson. You add Omri Caspi. I think this team could definitely do way better than 22 wins. I can see them easily with 40 wins. They drafted Javon Carter, who's a great defensive point guard, who could also be a steal of the draft at the 32 pick. I think this team could very well come back to in the playoff hunt. Probably not making the playoffs, but they're not going to be as bad as they were last year.
All right, so we're going to touch on our last topic. Save the best for last. This is always the fun part because I like picking your brain about this kind of stuff. But we're going to do some playoff predictions on our top seeding and who we think is going to make the playoffs. So I'll go ahead and start. And we're going to start in the East. Number one, I have Boston because obviously it's a no-brainer. I think they're the most well-rounded team out of the East compared to even Philly and Toronto. And I feel like they're going to be really hard to beat this year. Number two, I've got Philly. Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are just rising constantly. Every season, every game, they're getting better.
They added Wilson Chandler, which I think is very underrated pickup.
Yeah, they added Wilson Chandler. They did lose Bellinelli, which I'm kind of upset about, but they got rid of Anderson and Ersan Ilyasova, which I'm happy about. I'm glad they got rid of those guys. Number three, I've got Milwaukee. Giannis is going insane. Okay, and I feel like he is LeBron-esque where he can take any team that he has and carry constantly. But he doesn't have to because he has people like Bledsoe who are helping him score, helping dish assists. They got Connaughton. That's right. From the Blazers. Milwaukee has Connaughton now. And they picked up they got Brook Lopez as well, who I think will be I don't think he'll start, but I think he'll be sitting the bench. And they got rid of Jennings and a injury-prone Jabari. So honestly, they made great moves. And I see them being very top-seeded. Number four, I've got Indiana. Miles Turner's been working on his body like crazy. He's been getting in the gym. He's been getting muscular. He was off and on last season with games. And it gave Sabonis a chance to really shine and show what he can do. And he's developed well over his season with Indiana. So we're going to have really solid big men next year. We're also going to have really solid wings. We got Doug McDermott, who's going to be a great scoring guard that can help Oladipo with the scoring load. And we still have Collison and Corey Joseph, who are great playmaking point guards. And Indiana will be tough to beat in the East. Number five, I put Toronto. And it's kind of my same thing with the Spurs. With completely swapping all-stars, you have to completely rebuild stuff. Because if you're Toronto and you're running an offense through DeMar DeRozan is a certain type. He's more of a wing scorer to me. Kawhi Leonard is an all around player. So instead of running an offense through a wing scorer, you now have to develop an offense through an all around defensive and offensive player in Kawhi Leonard. So I still feel like that's going to take time. They're going to lose wins off that. So I put him at 5. Number 6, I have Miami. I know they were a fall off team, but in the weak East, I really cannot give no other explanation. In the weak East, Miami's going to make 6. Either 6 or 7 is what I predict. 7, I've got Washington. I like the way Bradley Beal's been playing over last season. I like the way hopefully John Wall can show up in the playoffs. I'm hoping. But I don't have him very high seeded. And sneaking in, I've got Detroit at 8. I have Detroit at 8 sneaking in just barely because I've been an Andre Drummond fan for a while. I've liked Drummond a lot.
He improved his free throw percentage at least.
He stepped up from the free throw line. I think his field goal percentage went up. He's averaging 16 rebounds a game. 3 assists for a big man. I'm proud of him for that. 1.6 blocks, which is pretty good. Averaging 15 points. Definitely improved his free throw percentage. He's hitting from the line now. So I'm liking Detroit hitting the number 8 spot. But honestly, I could maybe see Chicago squeaking in. Maybe at 8. And I'm stretching. But I still think Detroit will take the 8.
Number 1, it's got to be the Boston Celtics. They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, barely lost to LeBron James and that weak Cavaliers team without Kyrie Irving and without Gordon Hayward. Those two are coming back. You re-signed Marcus Smart. Another year of developing Jason Tatum, Terry Rozier, and Jaylen Brown. This team is going to go off. We could possibly see a trade with maybe Terry Rozier or Kyrie Irving in the middle of the season based on just what's going to happen the next year or so. Danny Ainge has always been very good at predicting what's going to happen. It's acting quick before losing someone. But I still think that they're going to end up winning the East and probably going to the NBA Finals. The second seed I have is Philly. I can see them fall to the 4th seed, but right now I have them as the 2nd seed. Keeping Redick helps them a lot. Another year of developing Joel Embiid. If Joel Embiid continues to stay healthy, hopefully they can get him to play more than 60 games, get him to play back-to-backs. That'll help him a lot. Another year of Ben Simmons developing. Hopefully he can work on a mid-range jumper. As soon as he can as soon as his jumper gets better, opens up the floor better, opens up passing lanes and all that stuff. TJ McConnell's a very solid player. Dario Saric is getting better every year. This will be the first full year of Markelle Fultz, the number 1 pick in the NBA draft last year. Do not write him off as a bust. It's very difficult to start a year with an injury to your shoulder and you start second-guessing yourself. They've worked with people before. I think they can fix him and save his career. Don't say he's a bust just because he had one bad year. I think he can very well still be a very solid player in this league, so look out for him. Adding Wilson Chandler is a very strong move for them. That'll help them a lot. Drafting Zaire Smith was a good move before he got hurt, continuing the curse of the 76ers where players that they draft getting hurt. Zaire Smith, Markelle Fultz, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and people always forget Nerlens Noel too. The last 5 or 6 draft classes, their top pick gets hurt and is almost out the entire year. It's almost like they're doing it on purpose. My 3rd seed, I kind of agree with Austin that Toronto could fall down to the 5th seed, but I have them at the 3rd seed right now because I just think Kawhi Leonard is that amazing of a player. I can see him falling down to the 5th seed, but I think playing with Kawhi Leonard will help him a lot. They'll open up the floor. They'll have a better defense. Norman Powell had an offseason last year, but he can get better. Fred VanVleet had a very solid season last year, and look for him to develop. Danny Green's going to help that team with defense as well and shooting. And the biggest difference is if things go the best for the Raptors and Kawhi Leonard plays like he has before, the biggest difference is that he is a killer. He will play in the playoffs. DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry have both shrank in the playoffs before. They got swept by LeBron last year as the number one seed. That is unexcusable. DeMar DeRozan cannot compete in the playoffs like Kawhi Leonard can, who's a Finals MVP. So having someone who won't shy away from the big stage will definitely help out a lot. What I could see being wrong, have them fall a little lower to the third or fifth seed is adding a big piece and losing a staple of your franchise like DeMar DeRozan, but also adding a whole new coach. They don't have Dwayne Casey anymore, so that's going to hurt them. The fourth seed, I got the Indiana Pacers, just moving up from one last year. I can see them be the third seed. Miles Turner developed his game, developed his body at least, which will make him stronger, allow him to contest for more rebounds. Victor Oladipo, 15 minutes after losing the first round of the series of the playoffs, texts his trainer when we work. So he's been working his ass off all season, off season long. Adding Tyreek Evans will definitely help him out, depending on what they do with him. I think they should move him to the point guard at least, because that's what he's shined. He's played his best 2 years at the point guard position, his rookie year and last year. That's where he plays his best. Domantas Sabonis was a nice surprise last year. He just continued to develop.
Getting rid of Lance was, I think, another core piece. Lance last season was not anything that could help us in a scoring or defensive load. He was just, I always considered him a hype man. He's just a hype man. And that's all I ever considered him.
Losing Lance will hurt a little with the defensive capabilities, but not too much. Lance was extremely much a hype man. But both of us being from Indiana, both of us being Pacer fans, we've gone to games. And there are times Lance will just do a fancy pass, do something amazing, and the crowd loves it. Indiana loves Lance, and that's why he's great in Indiana. Anywhere else, they don't love him as much. So he was a great fit for Indiana. He hypes us up. He had that game that we went to against the Bucks. I think he only had 2 points, but he made one big play and made a few big plays, and it just got us roaring and got the crowd excited, which got the team excited. That's what he's best at. But a quote from the Pacers team president, or not an exact quote, he said, sometimes Lance is the best player on the court for our team, and sometimes he's the best player for the court on the other team.
Mm-hmm.
At the fifth seed, I got the Milwaukee Bucks. I think, I don't know, last year they were the 7th seed, I believe, with 44 and 38. I can see him coming to 5th. I can see him jumping to the 4th or 3rd seed, but I think 5th's right where they're at. Adding Brook Lopez helps them with scoring, takes a little bit off Giannis, adds a little spacing, but he doesn't rebound that well. Chris Middleton's a killer. I like him a lot. He's probably the second best player on that Bucks team after Giannis. Eric Bledsoe.
Middleton made it to the Team USA team.
Yes, he did.
That's saying something.
Yeah, Chris Middleton's a fantastic player. Adding Dante DiVincenzo from Villanova is a very good pickup for them. He's a boom or bust prospect as well. I think the Bucks are going to have a pretty solid year. The 6th seed, I got the Washington Wizards. Adding Dwight Howard is just going to help them tremendously. I can see them going up to the 5th seed because a whole year of having John Wall healthy will help out a lot. Bradley Beal just keeps on getting better every year. John Wall's never played with a center like Dwight Howard. And Dwight Howard can get his act together and stop being such, and this is quoted from many teams, this isn't me saying that, he is a locker room cancer. If he can just stop being such a selfish player and learn his role, this Wizards team can really flourish underneath him, or with his help. At the 7th seed, I got the Miami Heat. That's mostly due to the fact how weak the East is. There's a lot of teams in the East that didn't do a whole bunch to move up into the playoffs, so I don't see the Heat falling out. I can, if some of the teams that we talked about as rising teams play to the best of their ability, I can see the Heat falling out. But right now I got them at the 7th seed. They're just a very solid team of very solid players. Nothing fantastic about them. The 8th seed, this was my toughest decision yet. I don't have much faith in the Detroit Pistons, but I don't think I can see the Cavaliers making the playoffs, especially with my prediction that the Love won't even finish the year out there this season. The best thing I can say about the Pistons offseason is that they signed Dwayne Casey as their head coach, which will help them a lot. That's the only reason why they make the playoffs or can even go higher. I don't have faith in Blake Griffin. He's been shown to hurt. I don't think the match between him and Drummond makes a whole lot of sense. And Reggie Jackson isn't the type of point guard you want in this league. He can't shoot very well, and he's been known to be unhealthy. Any teams that I can see going higher up from the East, there's 2 teams, and these are a stretch. But I got the Chicago Bulls. The Hornets, I can maybe see just how the weak the East is. And now this is going to shock a lot of you, the Brooklyn Nets. I think the Brooklyn Nets, they had 20 and 54, but they've added Kenneth Faried. They added Kenneth Faried. They have Jared Dudley, Spencer Dinwiddie, Alan Crowd, Damari Carroll, Hollis Jefferson, and another year of D'Angelo Russell, who was the number 2 pick of the draft a few years back. Another year of development. I think they're just becoming more of a solid team. They added Ed Davis. With the East as weak as it is, I can see the Brooklyn Nets sneaking at the 8th, but more than likely they won't. Like, I really don't want to put the Heat in the
I
playoffs.
don't either. But with the all-star talent that all these teams have, and then once you get below like the 4th, 5th seed, there's nothing really.
Mm-hmm. Like, the Heat is almost a lock just because of how weak the East is. I don't want to put them in there, but and the Pistons, I didn't want to put them in there, but I feel better putting them in there with Dwayne Casey being their coach. Conference.
So we're gonna move to the West. Me and Chandler actually talked about this earlier because he really wanted to know what I put down. So we're gonna get into it, or at least I'm gonna get into mine. So in the West, number 1, I've got Houston because showing what they did last year, they did get rid of some core pieces in Ryan Anderson and Trevor Ariza. They lost some core pieces, they lost some role players, but honestly, with the starters they have, the way Capella has developed, and with James Harden on the floor and Chris Paul, I think they're incredibly hard to stop in the West. Number 2 is Golden State. I'm not going to go into them that much. I know they're going to be high-seeded. I know they're a great team. Adding DeMarcus Cousins just helps. It gives them a core center and a great rebounding center. And someone you can actually run a big man offense through. Now, you couldn't do that through JaVale McGee. So I like that. Number 3, I've got the Pelicans. Like I stated earlier, with Anthony Davis on his rise, I think Anthony Davis can stay healthy. I think he's developed his body a lot better. I feel like he can stay healthy. Having Drew Holiday and Drew Holiday on the floor still helps. I feel like Drew Holiday has gotten better this season.
I think Drew Holiday, he had a lot of injury concerns over the last few years, but last year was the first year he stayed healthy for almost an entire year. And I believe it was a year or 2 ago he had to take some time off in the beginning of the season due to his wife's major surgery.
Right.
She was pregnant and she had brain cancer, or something like that. And so he had a lot on his mind that season.
Right.
But if you look at it, last year was a career year, and his only All-Star appearance was in 2012-2013 when he was last with Philly, and that's when he averaged 17 points and 8 assists. This year he averaged 19 and 6, and I think he can very well keep on developing because he's only 28 years old. He's in the prime of his career, and he's playing with a great player such as Anthony Davis.
Yeah, it's. I feel like the combo of Drew Holiday's development and Anthony Davis hopefully staying healthy will push them up to a 3 seed. Hopefully, number 4. Chandler looked at me like I was absolutely insane for this. I've got the Lakers at number 4. LeBron carrying an offensive load. If he can carry a completely garbage Cleveland team to the finals, knowing that he doesn't have to carry everybody on this Lakers team and that people can actually contribute, I can see them being a very high seed in the West. They're going to have a tough time competing with teams like Houston and Golden State, but even Utah and OKC, they might have a rough time. But I still think they could hit the 4 seed. Number 5, I've got Utah. Donovan Mitchell has completely shown out, showing that he can be an all-star in this league. A great point guard in Ricky Rubio, who is still young.
And oh my God, Ricky Rubio, like his stats may not reflect it, but there was a game in the playoffs last year where he showed Russell Westbrook up. And Russell Westbrook, he said that the very Westbrook thing to say is like, oh, I'm going to go after him. And he did, but that made his team play worse.
Uh-huh. And like Rubio, and it always surprised me because the way Rubio is, he doesn't play like he's as young as he is. Like
or he doesn't look like he's as young as he is, but he plays so well. And he still sees the floor like he did in Minnesota. Like, he's an incredible point guard for that Utah team. And having people like Donovan Mitchell, Joe Ingles, Rudy Gobert to lock down the paint.
Derek Favors.
Incredible rebounders down there. With East teams like Philly and Boston, I feel like Utah can smack them. It's insane.
Also, the Utah Jazz added a very controversial player with the 21st pick in the draft was Grayson Allen. But Grayson Allen can run the floor and can shoot the ball very well. He could, if he keeps his head in check, he could be a very good role player for that team. Just adds more shooting.
And they also re-signed Dante Exum, which is pretty nice. It's a great.
Dante Exum's had some strong injury concerns, but if he can stay healthy, he can develop into that point guard we've all been looking forward to.
So much of the NBA season right now, as far as some teams, is just a bunch of health concerns. If throughout the NBA season these players can stay healthy, it's going to be a crazy season. Number 6, I've got Oklahoma City for the fact that they got rid of Melo finally. They don't have somebody riding up their ass saying that he wants a starting role, and Melo did not put up anywhere near the stats to show that he was a starter. They did add Dennis Schroeder, who's another hothead in the locker rooms and on the court, but I don't think it's going to make that big of an impact. The signing of Paul George was kind of skeptical, but at the same time I could see it working because it's one less all-star on the floor that is demanding he get his buckets. So now you have a duo of Westbrook and Paul George on the floor, plus Steven Adams, who's been having great years back-to-back.
Every year he gets better.
Great rebounding years, great defensively.
Years. Getting better in offense.
Doesn't matter what happens to him. Showed that with Draymond. Anything Draymond did, he didn't care. He came back, played his game, he competed. And having that...
Listen, Steven Adams has like 18 siblings. He can handle like 15 guys on that roster.
Number 7, which might come as a surprise, I have Dallas coming in at 7 because I feel like Harrison Barnes is going to explode this year. I feel like this is going to be a breakout year for him. He had a pretty good season last season.
He actually had a little bit more of a down year scoring-wise, but only by 0.3 points of the year prior. He had 18.9 points, shooting just at 35% from the three-point land.
And about 45% from the field on 15 shots a game. Or 16 shots a game. So, honestly, I feel like he has the potential to break out this year. Hopefully, old Dirk can contribute as much as he can.
I think Harrison Barnes, I said this to you a few weeks ago, is a player that you just forget about just because of where he's at. Right now, Dallas Mavericks, they aren't talked about unless it's Dennis Smith Jr. or Harrison Barnes, and they're not in playoff contention, so no one talked about how good of a season Harrison Barnes had last year.
Right. And at the 8th seed, I've got Denver, and like you said, this is another one of your sleeper teams. They added Isaiah Thomas, who is I don't really care for Isaiah. I feel like he was a one and done type guy where Boston was his home. He got injured in Cleveland and he went to LA, had an okay season.
All right.
Now he's coming to Denver. I really don't see him contributing much in Denver compared to the people that they have already at the guard spots like Gary Harris and
Jamal Murray.
They added Michael Porter Jr. They drafted Michael Porter Jr.
I think right now he's currently hurt. I'm not sure when he's supposed to come back.
They did get rid of Wilson Chandler and Kenneth Faried, so it will kind of hurt a bit for Denver, but still having so many young guards developing and keeping Will Barton and Jokic, I feel like they will be a sleeper team. If anything, they'll be 9th seed. They might drop one, but I could see him sneaking into the West.
All right, so right now, that's your eight seeds. So right now you have the Timberwolves out, and you have the Spurs out.
Yeah. Let's see. I've got Sacramento out. I've got Memphis out. I've got Phoenix out. I've got San Antonio out.
San Antonio and the Timberwolves.
And I've got Portland out.
And Portland out. That's 3 teams in the playoffs last year. So you added, all right. You really think that the Spurs, who haven't missed the playoffs for 20 years,
are going to miss this year?
You think they are?
This will be their first year they miss.
All right. Well, let me ask you a hypothetical. Out of the 8 teams you got listed, what's one team that's not the 8th seed or 7th seed that easily can fall out? Because what a lot of people don't realize, last year, the Rockets were 65-17. The Warriors were 58-24, but the 3rd seed to the 9th seed, the difference between those teams, those 6 teams, was 3 games. With going from the Blaze 49, 48, 48, 48, 47, 47, and 46. Those 6 teams were all within 3 games of each other.
If I had to pick, I could pick 2 that I could see would fall out. 4th seed, well, for me, 4th seed LA could fall, and I could see 6th seed OKC falling.
Okay.
OKC is just way too ego-friendly with Dennis Schroeder, with Russell Westbrook. It's everybody wanting the ball at once, and it's hard to run an offense in OKC. So I could see them falling, and LA is just a completely brand new roster.
It was really hard to make these predictions because, like I just said, 6 teams last year were just within 3 games of each other, and then other teams are just getting better. Right now, at the number 1 seed, I got the Houston Rockets. They could fall down to the 2 seed because of just injury concerns of Chris Paul, losing Luke Mamute and Trevor Ariza. That could hurt. It depends on how well Melo goes to like this title contending team, see how well he will perform, see if he will eventually take a bench role. But they were a team who won 65 games. I believe they can still win about 55 or more, being the number 1 seed. The Golden State Warriors I have at the 2nd seed. I have them there just basically based off their pedigree. I can see them falling down to the 4th seed. I just don't see teams that can beat them right now, but with their injury concerns with Stephen Curry only playing 51 games last year, with their roster not being as deep as it had been in recent years, with the potential, their best asset they added this year with DeMarcus Cousins, him not potentially coming back to the All-Star break is going to hurt, and seeing how he integrates with a winning team for once, and also with the news that they said he might only get like 5 shots a game. The last time DeMarcus Cousins averaged 9 shots a game was never. The lowest in his career was his rookie year was 12 shots a game where he averaged 14 points. It's going to be very hard for him to integrate to that. But the Warriors, this could be their last year to contend for a title with just all the drama that's going to be happening with this next season. If they handle things right, they could still be a dynasty, but this is the most stressful year yet for this roster. But still, they're probably the favorites to win the playoffs. 3rd seed, I got the Utah Jazz. Another year of Donovan Mitchell just getting better. He really I can see he likes to work. I think he can develop. Rudy Gobert had a very strong year last year, but he was also hurt for some part of it. I believe he played 65 games. He played 56 games, so he didn't even play the whole year. So adding 20, 30 more games will definitely help out that team. Derek Favors, very solid player. Joe Ingles, very great. Dante Exum coming off injury will help them out. Grayson Allen could be a nice scoring punch off the bench. I think this team's very solid, and they can keep on developing. The 4th seed, I got the Oklahoma City Thunder. I really like the pairing of Russell Westbrook and Paul George. They play really well together. Paul George is very okay with being the 2nd best player on a team. He doesn't have to be the main star. He had a very strong playoffs until like the game 6 where he had an awful game, and that's unexcusable, but I think he'll use that to grow. I'm still kind of sore at him for what he did to Indiana, but he can be a very solid player for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Dennis Schroeder is a great player to have off the bench. It's kind of funny how he went from saying, I want to be the star of the franchise, to I'm okay with being off the bench now that he's forced to. He's just trying to do it so people can give him another chance because he's feeling the pressure. They can be the 4th seed. I mean, there's just so much leeway with these teams. They could be the 6th seed or they could be out of the playoffs in a couple games. The 5th seed, I got the Denver Nuggets. I can see them rising up to the 4th or 5th seed, or the 4th or 3rd seed. They only had 38 games with Paul Millsap last year. Adding 50 more games with him, they can easily win 10 more games. I think that they're a very strong team. They are a very strong offensively minded team. Isaiah Thomas will be a great player to have off the bench. That's his best role. He only had a great year with Boston because they had a great coach of Brad Stevens and a great defense around him. That's going to be the trouble of Denver Nuggets. It's just that they're defensively inept. But Paul Millsap will help that defense. And this team just has a nice young core that's constantly developing. At the 6th seed, I got the Timberwolves. I can easily see them falling down to the 8th or out of the playoffs. But right now in the 6th seed, Jimmy Butler is a beast. He's a competitor, and if he can light a fire underneath Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins' asses, they could be a very good team. Karl Anthony Towns hasn't proven that he's a great defender yet, but he was a great defender in college. If he can take the physical tools that he's got, he can develop. The same with Andrew Wiggins. He was looked at to be a great defensive prospect, but right now he's one of the worst defenders of the league. If those two just get in the right mindset, they can easily help this team get up higher. The 7th seed, I got the Portland Trail Blazers. I do see, they are one of my fall-off teams, but I can't see them falling out of the playoffs because Damian Lillard. I mean, it's Dame time, guys. You cannot count this guy out. Every time you count him out, he's going to come back. You know, like, just say that he's going to be out of the playoffs, and he'll probably make his team to the 2nd seed. That's how the type of guy he is. And at the 8th seed, I have 2 teams. I just couldn't choose. I got the Spurs and the Pelicans. It's going to be a battle between those 2 teams. I think the Pelicans are taking a huge step back with the players that they're missing, and the Spurs. It's I don't know. It's going to be really close.
It'll be I feel like the 8th seed in the East is going to be way too
The
easily
West.
decided
I see what you mean.
compared to the battle in the West, because I feel like it's not even the 8th seed. I feel like the battle from 8 to 5 is going to be a battle in the West.
It's probably going to be the 9-3.
It'll be rough. Like they're going to be so even. It'll be incredible.
So yes, right now, as you probably just realized, I did not say the Lakers. Austin had them at 4th. I have them out of the playoffs. I just don't think that with adding 10 prospects or adding 10 new players, 4 of them being they're the Showtime Lakers, but not in a good way. They're like Showtime because it'll be fun to watch, like funny to watch actually. It'll just be really interesting to see how Luke Walton, who's the same age as LeBron James almost, handles all these personalities and all these new prospects, and having to deal with LeVar Ball, which we haven't even mentioned. I think this team could be great in the future, but this year I don't think is their year, and I don't think they make the playoffs. Yes, LeBron's led his team to the playoffs time in and time out, but that's in a weaker Eastern Conference. In the West, just so many teams are so close together, and they just get better every day. If there was any team that I can see maybe sneak in besides the ones already mentioned in the West, it would possibly be the Grizzlies, maybe the Suns if they develop well, and the Lakers could probably sneak in. But right now I'm out of the playoffs.
It'll be rough to see what's going to go on in that locker room. Because that's so many different types of personalities and ways to play basketball sitting in one locker room.
What's really interesting about our playoff predictions, Austin, is that there was 2 big polls on playoff predictions already, like ESPN and Bleacher Report or whatever they were. Maybe it was CBS. But one of them had the Lakers as the 4th or 3rd seed like yourself, and the other one had them out of the playoffs like me. So no one really knows where this team's going to be.
It could literally be anywhere. Like this entire roster that the Lakers have built could go from the highest ceiling the Lakers have been at to the bottomless pit of why did we do this? Let's rebuild. Like it could be absolutely insane. We don't know for a fact.
Also, don't be surprised if the roster that you see right now, if it changes dramatically. Like just look at last year how the Cavaliers added their whole roster changed.
Oh yeah.
And they made very trade-friendly accusations. The 4 players we mentioned, Rondo, Stevenson, Beasley, and McGee, those are all 1-year deals. That's a team is very willing to trade for that because that's not going to be hurting their future. Especially most of those players are they could help a title team contend. So you can easily see if Josh Hart develops pretty well, but they want a better center, they can attach Josh Hart, a pick, and JaVale McGee and send it off. They can trade a lot of these players.
All right. Any closing statements you want to give?
Who's winning the title this year? I got Boston.
It's tough. You got Boston. I think I've got Houston. I don't see anybody from the East winning the finals this year. I think it's going to be a West win. It's just who's going to get there.
I think if Brad Stevens can control all the talent that he has, I think they're going to be the team to beat, and I think they're going to win the title.
I think
their depth is just so much better than the Warriors' depth.
even though they lost a couple good pieces, I feel like they can still rebuild on the pieces that they have.
and that James Harden, Clint Capella,
and Chris Paul trio. They were like 51-6 altogether, but they were all on the court.
It's gonna be rough with that trio on the court.
I agree that I can see the Warriors making the finals. I mean, the Houston Rockets making the finals over the Warriors, just for the fact that the Warriors have always had pretty good time in the playoffs just because of their depth and their talent, top-heavy talent. But with their depth being so much lower, they're going to be playing more games in the playoffs. They're not going to sweep as much, or 5 or 6. They're going to be going to more 6 or 7 game series, and they're going to tire out. Their best thing against in the finals last year is that they played a terrible team, the Cavaliers. If they played the Celtics, I think the Celtics give them more a run of the money than the Cavaliers did. So they're going to get tired more.
What we know now is that Cavaliers are not making the finals.
So yes.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
We get
LeBron
to see
James isn't going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals or the Finals.
We finally get to see something different in the finals next year, which I'm really excited for. I'm going to be really excited for that finals. I'm excited for the start of the NBA season. Me and Chandler are actually going to the first Pacer game that they're going to be playing. Who are they playing? Dallas?
The Memphis Grizzlies.
Memphis, that's who they're playing. We're actually going to go to that game. We'll probably have a synopsis on it. We'll come out with an episode of what we think, and on some of the games that day we'll go over some of the stats and things like that. And we're going to be, hopefully, paying really close attention to the season next year.
I think this will be since we're starting this podcast, is probably the most I pay attention to a season yet.
This is going to be a lot of fun because this gives us something to get really excited about for the NBA, because we get to come and talk to you guys about stuff once games finish up. Here in the future, I will be accepting questions on Twitter and things like that, so I'll leave my Twitter in the description. Make sure you follow me.
Just to state the fact that any suggestions you give us are great. I know, like, sometimes we stumbled over our words, stuff like that. This is our first podcast ever. I'm not used to speaking, so give us a little bit of a break, but suggestions are always welcome. Things that we can do better, things we can do different. I know we threw a lot into this episode, but we came in late into this. Like, there was a whole off season worth of stuff to talk about, so we try to fit as much as we can. And once the season starts, we'll be able to plan this out a little bit better. And
once the season starts, we'll be able to talk about certain weeks, certain games we paid attention to. And for this podcast being the first one, we wanted to give you guys a whole brief assortment of what this podcast is going to be. So we gave you as much information.
And also just what we both kind of think, how we both think.
So it'll be interesting. Let us know in the comments what you guys think, what you guys want to hear, stuff like that. We'll definitely appreciate that.
All right, let's just ask him one question too. This is one of my.
All right, answer in the comments.
This is one of my favorite questions I've been asking people. Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker are the same age. A lot of people realize that since they're a few years apart in the draft or coming into the NBA. Who would you take, Donovan Mitchell or Devin Booker?
Leave your answers in the comments. Let us know.
And that's to win this season, not for a franchise player, but for this season.
Let us know in the comments. You guys answer that stuff. Chandler, if you're good, I think we're going to head out.
All right, peace, guys.
Appreciate it. Tune in for the next one. Peace out.